Welcome to Lesson 8 of Module 5 Heredity. In this video, we're going to be looking at the genotypes of offspring and how we can model these, but also answering the inquiry question of how can the genetic similarities and differences within and between species be compared. So in this video, warning now, there is a lot of meta language that we need to understand. So I'll go through each of them and then in class we'll practice what they exactly mean with a few genetic problems. So meta language, genotype, it's the genetic makeup of an organism, and in contrast, the phenotype is what we see as the outward appearance of an organism. An allele is an alternative form of the same gene or trait. Homozygous is an individual with identical alleles in each gene pair. Heterozygous, an individual with two different alleles in each gene pair. And we can see these compared on the right-hand side in that image there. Dominant is the allele that is expressed in a heterozygous individual, and we usually show this with a capital letter. And then we have our recessive allele, and this is can be masked or hidden for a generation, and we represent that with a lowercase letter. So if we're looking at meiosis, sorry for that, clearing my throat. If we're looking at meiosis, we can see that it does produce more genetic variation if we see crossing over or when we see chromosomes randomly segregate and then our paternal and maternal chromosomes are sort independently of each other. And we do have a little bit of a information here about crossing over in the process during meiosis 1 and how this does in fact increase our genetic variation that we can see in individuals. Here's an image of how this happens. So we can see that these chromosomes on our left do in fact have mixed paternal and maternal genetic material, and then we can see that passed on into our daughter cells down here. We can see that they have a range of different alleles that are different from the parent chromosomes. So Punnett squares, this is the way in which we show random combination of gametes, and then we can see the genotypes of any resulting offspring. When we talk about a monohybrid cross, it's a cross between two individuals with different alleles at a single locus. And homozygous parents are crossed to produce heterozygous offspring, which we call the F1, and then these are crossed to form the F2. So we can see here the alleles of each parent, and we can see the resulting outcomes of this. So a little bit more meta language as we look more specifically at those genetic crosses. Autosomal we refer to as our body cells. Sex linkage is where we have alleles carried on the X of the sex chromosome. Codominance is when both alleles are expressed to varying degrees. Incomplete dominance is where neither phenotype is completely dominant, so that intermediate phenotypes occur. Multiple alleles is when there is more than two possible alleles for the same locus, and a pedigree is a record of the ancestry of an individual or a group of related individuals. So a pedigree is where we can follow the inheritance of traits through a family, and some of the ways in which we organize that pedigree chart is listed below in the dot points. So we have circles representing females and squares representing males. Whether they're shaded or unshaded dictates whether they do in fact have the phenotype for a particular trait. A horizontal line represents a cross between the individuals, and a vertical line represents a link from parents to offspring. Individuals are always numbered from left to right. Generations are represented with Roman numerals, and a carrier of an X-linked trait is shown with a dot in the center. We can see all of those here. So we have parents, two children, these are carriers, and then we have an affected male here. So we can actually go through and we can analyze pedigree charts to then find out what type of inheritance pattern we're seeing there. And we can go through this flowchart. We won't go through it in this video, but it is a flowchart that you can use to solve some genetic problems and work out the type of inheritance is listed here. That does include our video. Make sure you're in class for these, as we're going to be doing a lot of these genetic problems, which I can't show to you in these videos, but we will practice lots of them and the way that they're inherited in our lessons. That concludes video 8. Make sure you tune in for video 9.